last question was asked for the first time, half in jest and on May 21st, 2061, at a time when humanity first stepped into the light. The question came about as a result of a $5 bet over highballs, and it happened this way. Alexander Adel and Bertram Lupov were two of the faithful attendants of the multivac, as well as any human beings could. They knew what lay beyond the cold, clicking, flashing face. Miles and miles of face. Of that giant computer. They had at least a vague notion of the general plan of relays and circuits that had long since grown past the point where any single human could possibly have a firm grasp of the whole. Multivac was self-adjusting and self-correcting, and had to be. For nothing human could adjust and correct it quickly enough or even adequately enough. So Adele and Lupov attended the monstrous giant only lightly and superficially, yet as well as any men could. They fed it data, adjusted questions to its needs, and translated the answers that were issued. Certainly they, and all other like them, were fully entitled to share in the glory that was Multivacs. For decades, Multivacs had helped design the ships and plot the trajectories that enabled man to reach the Moon, Mars, and Venus. But past that, Earth's poor resources could not support the ships. Too much energy was needed for the long trips. Earth exploited its coal and uranium with increased efficiency, but there was only so much of both. But slowly, Multivac learned enough to answer deep questions more fundamentally, and on May 14th, 2061, what had been a theory became fact. The energy of the sun was stored, converted, and utilized directly on a planet-wide scale. All Earth turned off its burning coal, its fissioning uranium, and flipped the switch that connected all of it to a small station, 1 mile in diameter, circling the Earth at half the distance of the Moon. All Earth ran by invisible beams of sun power. 7 days had not sufficed to dim the glory of it, and Adele and Lupov finally managed to escape from the public functions, and to meet in quiet where no one could think at looking for them. In the deserted underground chambers, where portions of the mighty buried bodies of Multivac showed. Unattended, idling, sorting data with contented lazy clicking, Multivac 2 had earned its vacation, and the boys appreciated that. They had no intention, originally, of disturbing it. They brought a bottle with them, and their only concern at the moment was to relax in the company of each other and the bottle. "It's amazing when you think of it," said Adele. His wrought face had lines of weariness in it, and he stirred his drink slowly with a glass rod, watching the cubes of ice slur clumsily about. "All the energy that we can possibly ever use for free. Enough energy, if we wanted to draw on it, to melt all of Earth into a big drop of impure liquid iron, and still miss the energy so used. All the energy we could ever use, forever and forever and ever." Lupov cocked his head sideways. He had a trick of doing that when he wanted to be contrary, and he wanted to be contrary now, partly because he had to carry the ice as well as the glassware. "Not forever," he said. "Oh hell, just about forever. Till the sun runs down, Bert." "That's not forever." "All right then, billions and billions of years. 10 billion maybe. Are you satisfied?" Lupov put his fingers through the thinning hair as though to reassure him that some was left, and sipping gently on his own drink. 10 billion years isn't forever." "Well, it'll last our time, won't it?" "So would the coal and the uranium." "All right, but now we can hook up each individual spaceship to the solar station, and it can go to Pluto and back 1,000,000 times without ever worrying about fuel. Can't do that on coal and uranium. Ask Multivac if you don't believe me." "I don't have to ask Multivac. I know that." "And stop running down what Multivac's done for us," said Adele, blazing up. "It did all right." "Who says it didn't? What I say is the sun won't last forever. That's all I'm saying. We're safe for 10 billions, but then what?" Lupov pointed a slightly shaky finger at the other. "And don't say we'll switch to another sun." There was a silence for a while, Adele putting his glass to his lips only occasionally, and Lupov's eyes slowly closed. They rested. Then Lupov's eyes snapped open. "You're thinking we'll switch to another sun when ours is done, aren't you?" I'm not thinking. Sure you are. You're weak on logic. That's the trouble with you. You're like the guy in the story who got caught in a sudden shower and who ran to a grove of trees and got under one. He wasn't worried, you see, because he figured when one tree got wet through, he would just go find another one. I get it, said Adele. Don't shout. When the sun is done, the other stars will be gone too. Darn right they will, muttered Lupov. It all had a beginning in the original cosmic explosion. Whatever that was, it'll all have an end when all the stars run down. Some run down faster than others. Hell, the giants won't last 100 million years. The sun will last 10 billion years, and maybe the dwarves will last 200 billion for all the good they are. But just give us a trillion years and everything will be dark. Entropy has to increase to maximum. That's all. I know all about entropy, said Adele, standing on his dignity. The hell you do? I know about as much as you do. Then you know everything's got to run down someday. All right, who says they won't? You did, you poor sap. You said we all had the energy we needed forever. You said forever. It was Adele's turn to be contrary. Maybe we can build things up again someday. Never. Why not someday? Never. Ask Multivac. You ask Multivac. I dare you. $5 says it can't be done. Adele was just drunk enough to try. Just sober enough to be able to phrase the necessary symbols and operations into a question which, in words, might have corresponded to this. Will mankind one day, without the net expenditure of energy, be able to restore the sun to its full youthfulness, even after it has died of old age? Or maybe it could even be put more simply like this. How can the net amount of entropy of the universe be massively decreased? And Multivac fell dead and silent. The slow flashing of lights ceased. The distant sounds of clicking relays ended. Then, just as the frightened technicians felt that they could hold their breath no longer, there was a sudden springing to life of the teletype attached to the portion of the Multivac. 5 words were printed. Insufficient data for meaningful answer. No bet, whispered Lupov, and they left hurriedly. By the next morning, the two, plagued with throbbing head and cottony mouth, had forgotten the incident. Gerard, Gerardine, and Juradette 1 and 2 watched the starry picture in the visiplate change as the passage through hyperspace was completed in its non-time lapse. At once, the even powering of the stars gave way to the prominence of a single bright shining disk, the size of a marble, centered in the viewing screen. It's X-23, said Gerard confidently, his thin hands clamped tightly behind his back and the knuckles whitening. The little Geradettes, both girls, had experienced the hyperspace passage for the first time in their lives and were self-conscious over the momentary sensation of insidiousness. They buried their giggles and chased one another wildly about their mother, screaming, "We've reached X-23! We've reached X-23! We've reached—" "Quiet, children," said Gerardine sharply. "Are you sure, Gerard?" "What is there to be sure about?" asked Gerard, glancing up at the bulge of the featureless metal just under the ceiling. It ran the length of the room, disappearing through the wall at either end. It was as long as the ship. Gerard scarcely knew a thing about the thick rod of metal except that it was called a microvac. That one asked it questions if one wished. That if one did not know, it still had its task of guiding the ship to a preordained destination, of feeding on energies from the various subgalactic power stations, of computing the equations for the hyperspatial jumps. Gerard and his family had only to wait and live in the comfortable residence quarters of the ship. Someone had once told Gerard that the AC at the end of the microvac stood for automatic computer in ancient English, but he was at the edge of forgetting even that. Gerardine's eyes were moist as she watched the visiplate. "I can't help it. I feel funny about leaving Earth." "Why, for Pete's sake?" demanded Gerard. "We had nothing there. We have everything on X-23. You won't be alone. You won't be a pioneer. There are over 1 million people on the planet already. Good Lord, our great-great-grandchildren will be looking for new worlds because X-23 will be overcrowded." Then, after a reflective pause, "I'll tell you, it's a lucky thing that the computers worked out interstellar travel the way that race is growing." I know, said Gerardine miserably. Geradette 1 said promptly, our microvac is the best microvac in the world. I think so too, said Gerard, tousling her hair. It was a nice feeling to have a microvac of your own, and Gerard was glad that he was part of his generation and no other. In his father's youth, the only computers had been tremendous machines taking up 100 square miles of land. There was only one to a planet. Planetary ACs, they were called. They had been growing in size steadily for 1,000 years, and then, all at once, came refinement. In place of transistors had come molecular valves so that even the largest planetary AC could be put into space only half the volume of a spaceship. Gerard felt uplifted, as he always did when he thought that his own personal microvac was many times more complicated than the ancient and primitive multivac that had first tamed the sun, and almost as complicated as Earth's Planetarv AC, the largest, that had first solved the problem of hyperspatial travel and had made trips to the stars possible. So many stars. So many planets, sighed Geraldine, busy with her own thoughts. I suppose families will be going out to new planets forever, the way that we are now. Not forever, said Gerard with a smile. It will all stop someday, but not for billions of years. Many billions. Even the stars run down, you know. Entropy must increase. What's entropy, Daddy? Shrilled Gerardette too. Entropy, little sweet, is just a word which means the amount of running down of the universe. Everything runs down, you know. Like your little walkie-talkie robot, remember? Can't you just put in a new power unit, like with my robot? The stars are the power units, dear. Once they're gone, there are no more power units. Gerardette 1 at once set up a howl. Don't let them, Daddy! Don't let the stars run down! Now look what you've done, whispered Geraldine, exasperated. How was I to know that it would frighten them? Gerard whispered back. Ask the microvac, wailed Gerardette 1. Ask him how to turn the stars on again. Go ahead, said Geraldine. It'll quiet them down. Gerardette 2 was beginning to cry also. Gerard shrugged. Now, honeys, I'll ask microvac. Don't worry, he'll tell us. And he asked the microvac, added quickly, print the answer. Gerard cupped the strip of thin cellophane and said cheerfully, See now, the microvac says it will take care of everything when the time comes, so don't worry. And Geraldine said, And now, children, it's time for bed. We'll be in our new home soon. Gerard read the words on the cellophane again before destroying it. Insufficient data for meaningful answer. He shrugged and looked at the visiplate. X-23 was just ahead. VJ-23X of Lamenth stared into the black depths of the three-dimensional, small-scale map of the galaxy and said, Are we ridiculous? I wonder in being so concerned about the matter. MQ-17J of Nikron shook his head. I think not. You know the galaxy will be filled in 5 years at the present rate of expansion. Both seemed in their early 20s. Both were tall and perfectly formed. Still, said VJ-23X, I hesitate to submit a pessimistic report to the Galactic Council. I wouldn't consider any other kind of report. Stir them up. We've got to stir them up. And VJ-23X sighed. Space is infinite. 100 billion galaxies are there for the taking. More. 100 billion is not infinite, and it gets less infinite all the time. Consider, 20,000 years ago, mankind first solved the problem of utilizing stellar energy, and a few centuries later, interstellar travel became possible. It took mankind 1,000,000 years to fill one small world, and then only 15,000 years to fill the rest of the galaxy. Now the population doubles every 10 years, and VJ-23X interrupted. We can thank immortality for that. Very well. Immortality exists, and we have to take it into account. I admit that it has a less seamy side, this immortality. The galactic AC has solved many problems for us, but in solving the problem of preventing old age and death, it has undone all its other solutions. Yet, you wouldn't want to abandon life, I suppose. Not at all, snapped MQ-17J, softening at once too. Not yet. I'm by no means old enough. How old are you? 223. And you?
I'm still under 100. But to get back to my point, population doubles every 10 years. Once this galaxy is filled, we'll have another filled in 10 years. Another 10 years, and we'll have filled 2 more. Another decade, 4 more, and in 100 years, we'll have filled 1,000 galaxies. In 1,000 years, 1,000,000 galaxies. In 10,000 years, the entire known universe. And then what?
And VJ23X said, as a side issue, there's a problem of transportation. I wonder how many sun power units it will take to move galaxies of individuals from one galaxy to the next.
A very good point. Already, mankind consumes 2 sun power units per year.
Most of it is wasted. After all, our own galaxy alone pours out 1,000 sun power units a year, and we only use 2 of those.
Granted, but even with 100% efficiency, we only stave off the end. Our energy requirements are going up in geometric progression even faster than our population. We'll run out of energy even sooner than we run out of galaxies. A good point. A very good point.
We'll just have to build new stars out of interstellar gas.
Or out of dissipated heat,
asked MQ-17J sarcastically. There must be some way to reverse entropy. We ought to ask the galactic AC. VJ23X was not really serious, but MQ-17J pulled out his AC contact from his pocket and placed it on the table before him.
I have half a mind to, he said. It's something the human race will have to face someday.
He stared somberly at his small AC contact. It was only 2 inches cubed and nothing in itself, but it was connected through hyperspace with the great galactic AC that served all mankind. Hyperspace considered, it was an integral part of the galactic AC. MQ-17J paused to wonder if someday in his immortal life he would get to see the galactic AC. It was on a little world of its own, a spider webbing of force beams holding the matter within, which surges of submissions took the place of the old clumsy molecular valves. Yet despite its sub-etheric workings, the galactic AC was known to be a full 1,000 feet across. MQ-17J asked suddenly of his AC contact,
"Can entropy ever be reversed?"
VJ23X looked startled and said at once, "Oh, say, I didn't really mean to have you ask that."
"Why not?"
"We both know that entropy cannot be reversed. You can't turn smoke and ash back into a tree."
"Do you have trees on your world?"
asked MQ-17J. The sound of the galactic AC startled them in silence. Its voice came thin and beautiful out of the small AC contact on the desk, and it said,
"There is insufficient data for a meaningful answer."
And VJ23X said, "See?" And the 2 men thereupon returned to the question of the report that they were to make to the Galactic Council. Z Prime's mind spanned the new galaxy with a faint interest in the countless twists of the stars that powered it. He had never seen this one before. Would he ever see them all? So many of them, each with its load of humanity, but a load that was almost a dead weight. More and more, the real essence of man was to be found out here, in space. Minds, not bodies. The immortal bodies remained back on the planets, in suspension over the eons. Sometimes they roused for material activity, but they were growing rarer. Few new individuals were coming into existence to join the incredibly mighty throng. But what matter? There was little room in the universe for new individuals. Z Prime was roused out of his reverie upon coming across the wispy tendrils of another mind. "I am Z Prime. And you?" "I am D Sub-1. Your galaxy?" "We call it only the galaxy. And you?" "We call ours the same. All men call their galaxy the galaxy and nothing more. Why not?" "True, since all galaxies are the same." "Not all galaxies. On one particular galaxy, the race of man must have originated. That makes it different." And Z Prime said, "On which one?" "I cannot say. The Universe AC would know." "Shall we ask him?" "Shall we ask him? I am suddenly curious." Z-Prime's perceptions broadened until the galaxies themselves shrank and became new, more diffusing power on a much larger background. So many hundreds of billions of them, all with their immortal beings, all carrying their load of intelligences with minds that drifted freely through space. And yet, one of them was unique among them all in being the original galaxy. One of them had, in its vague and distant past, a period when it was the only galaxy populated by man. Z-Prime was consumed with curiosity to see the galaxy, and he called out, "Universal AC! On which galaxy did mankind originate?" The Universal AC heard, for on every world and throughout space, it had its receptors ready, and each receptor led throughout hyperspace to some unknown point where the Universal AC kept itself aloof. Z-Prime knew of only men whose thoughts had penetrated within sensing distance of a Universal AC, and he reported only a shining globe, 2 feet across and difficult to see.
But how can that be all of Universal AC?
Z-Prime had asked.
Most of it,
had been the answer.
is in hyperspace. In what form it is there, I cannot imagine.
Nor could anyone. But the day had long since passed, and Z-Prime knew when any man had any part of the making of the Universal AC. Each Universal AC designed and constructed its successor. Each, during its existence of millions of years or more, accumulated the necessary data to build a better and more intricate, more capable successor, in which its own store of data and individuality would be submerged. The Universal AC interrupted Z-Prime's wandering thoughts, not with words, but with guidance. Z-Prime's mentality was guided into a dim sea of galaxies, and one in particular enlarged into stars. And then a thought came, infinitely distant but infinitely clear. This is the original galaxy of man. But it was the same after all, the same as any other, and Lee Prime stifled his disappointment. D-Sub-1, whose mind had accompanied the other, said suddenly, "And is one of these stars the original stars of man?" The Universal AC said, "Man's original star has gone nova. It is a white dwarf." "Did the men upon it die?" asked Lee Prime, startled and without thinking. "A new world, as in such cases was constructed for their physical bodies in time." "Yes, of course," said Z-Prime, but a sense of loss overwhelmed him even so. His mind released its hold on the original galaxy of man, let it spring back and lose itself among the blurred pinpoints. He never wanted to see it again. D-Sub-1 said, "What is wrong?" "The stars are dying. The original star is dead." "They must all die. Why not?" "But when all energy is gone, our bodies will finally die, and you and I with them. It will take billions of years. I do not wish it to happen after billions of years." "Universal AC, how many stars be kept from dying?" D-Sub-1 said in amusement. "You're asking how entropy might be reversed in direction?" And the Universal AC answered, "There is yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer." Murray Templeton was 45 years old, in the prime of his life, and with all parts of his body in perfect working order except for certain key portions of his coronary arteries, but that was enough. The pain had come suddenly, had mounted to an unbearable peak, and had then ebbed steadily. He could feel his breath slowing and a kind of gathering peace washing over him. There is no pleasure like the absence of pain. Immediately after pain, Murray felt an almost giddy lightness as though he were being lifted into the air and hovering. He opened his eyes and noted with distant amusement that the others in the room were still agitated. He had been in the laboratory when the pain had struck, quiet without warning, and when he had staggered, he had heard surprised outcries from the others before everything vanished into overwhelming agony. Now, with the pain gone, the others were still hovering, still anxious, still gathered about his fallen body, which he had suddenly realized he was looking down on. He was down there, sprawled, face contorted. And he was up here, at peace and watching. He thought, miracle of miracles, the life after life nuts were right. And although that was a humiliating way for an atheistic physicist to die, he felt only the mildest surprise, and no alteration of the peace in which he was immersed. He thought, there should be some angel, or something, coming for me. And the earthly scene was fading. Darkness was invading his consciousness, and off in a distant, as a last glimmer of sight, there was a figure of light, vaguely human in form, and radiating warmth. And Murray thought, what a joke on me. I'm going to heaven. Even as he thought that, the light faded, but the warmth remained. There was no lessening of the peace, even though in all of the universe only he remained. And the voice. And the voice said, I have done this so often, and yet I still have the capacity to be pleased at success. It was in Murray's mind to say something, but he was not conscious of possessing a mouth, tongue, or vocal cords. Nevertheless, trying to make a sound. He tried, mouthlessly, to hum words or to breathe them or just to push them out by a contraction of something. And they came out. He heard his own voice, quite recognizable, and his own words infinitely clear. And Murray said, Is this heaven? And the voice said, This is no place as you understand place. Murray was embarrassed by the next question that he had asked. Pardon me if I sound like a jackass. Are you God? Without changing intonation or in any way marring the perfection of the sound, the voice managed to sound amused. It is strange that I am always asked that in, of course, an infinite number of ways. There is no answer that I can give you that you would comprehend. I am, which is all that I can say significantly, and you may cover that with any word or concept you please. And so Murray responded, And what am I? A soul? Or am I only personified existence too? He tried to not sound sarcastic, but it seemed to him that he had failed. He thought, though, fleetingly, or adding a your grace or your one or something to counteract the sarcasm. And he could not bring himself to do so, even though the first time in his existence he speculated on the possibility of being punished for his insolence, or sin, with hell, and what that might be like. But the voice did not sound offended. You are easy to explain, even to you. You may call yourself a soul if that pleases you. For what you are is a nexus of electromagnetic forces, so arranged that all of the interconnections and interrelationships are exactly imitative of those of your brain in your universal existence, down to the smallest detail. Therefore, you have your capacity for your thought, your memories as well as your personality. It still seems to you that you are you. And Murray found himself incredulous. You mean the essence of my brain was permanent? Not at all. There's something about you that is permanent except for what I choose to make so. I formed the nexus. I constructed it while you had physical existence, and adjusted it to the moment when the existence failed. The voice seemed distinctively pleased with itself, and went on after a moment's pause. An intricate but entirely precise construction. I could, of course, do it for every human being on your world, but I am pleased that I do not. There is pleasure in the selection. You choose very few, then? Very few. And what happens to the rest? Oblivion. No, of course. You imagine a hell. Murray would have flushed if he had the capacity to do so, but he said, I do not. It is spoken of. Still, I would sarcastically have thought that I was virtuous enough to have attracted your attention as one of the elect. Virtuous? Oh, I see what you mean. It is troublesome to have forced my thinking small enough to permeate yours. No. I have chosen you for your capacity for thought, as I choose others, in quadrillions from all the intelligent species of the universe. And Murray found himself suddenly curious. the habit of a lifetime. And he said, do you choose them all by yourself, or are there others like you? For a fleeting moment, Murray thought that there was an impatient reaction to that, but when the voice came, it was unmoved.
Whether or not there are others is irrelevant to you. This universe is mine, and mine alone. It is my invention, my construction, intended for my purpose alone.
And yet, with quadrillions of Nexi you have formed, you spend time with me. Am I that important?
You are not important at all. I am also with others in a way which, to your perception, would seem simultaneous.
And yet you are one. Again amused, the voice said,
You seek to trap me in an inconsistency. If you were an amoeba who would consider individuality only a connection with single cells, and if you were to ask a sperm whale made up of 30 quadrillion cells whether it was one or many, how could the sperm whale answer in a way that would be comprehensible to the amoeba?
And Murray said dryly, I'll think about it. It may become comprehensible.
Exactly. This is your function. You will think.
To what end? You already know everything, I suppose. And the voice said,
Even if I know everything, I could not know that I know everything.
That sounds like a bit of Eastern philosophy, something that sounds profound precisely because it has no meaning. And the voice responded,
You have promise. You answer my paradox with a paradox, except that mine is not a paradox. Consider, I have existed eternally. But what does that mean? It means that I cannot remember having come into existence. If I could, I would not have existed eternally. If I cannot remember having come into existence, and there is at least one thing, the nature of my coming into existence, that I do not know. Then too, although what I know is infinite, it is also true that what there is to know is infinite. And how can I be so sure that both infinites are equal? The infinity of potential knowledge may be infinitely greater than the infinity of my actual knowledge. Here's a simple example. If I knew every one of the even integers, I would know an infinite number of items, and yet I would still not know a single odd integer.
But the other integers can be derived. If you divided every even integer into an entire infinite series by 2, you would get another infinite series which will contain within it the infinite series of odd integers.
You have the idea. I am pleased. It would be your task to find other such ways, far more difficult ones, from the known to the not yet known. You have your memories. You will remember all the data that you have ever collected or learned, and that you have or will deduce from that data. If necessary, you will be allowed to learn what additional data you would consider relevant to the problems you set yourself.
Could you not do all of that yourself?
I can, but it is more interesting this way. I constructed the universe in order to have more facts to deal with. I inserted the uncertainty principle, entropy, and other randomization factors to make the whole not instantly obvious. It has worked well, for it has amused me throughout its entire existence. I then allowed complexities that produced first life and then intelligence, and use it as a source for a research team, not because I need the aid, but because it would introduce a new random factor. I found that I cannot predict the next interesting piece of knowledge gained, where it would come from, by what means derived.
Does that even happen?
Certainly. A century does not pass in which some interesting item doesn't appear elsewhere.
Something that you could have thought of yourself, but you hadn't done so yet.
Yes.
Do you actually think that there's a chance of my obliging you in this manner?
In the next century? Virtually none. In the long run, though, your success is certain, since you will be engaged eternally.
I will be thinking through eternity. Forever.
Yes.
To what end?
I have told you. To find new knowledge. But beyond that, for what purpose am I to find new knowledge?
It is what you did in your universe-bound life. What was its purpose then?
To gain new knowledge that only I could gain. To receive the praise of my fellows, to feel the satisfaction of accomplishment knowing that I had only a short time allotted to me for that purpose. Now I would gain only what you could gain yourself if you wished to take a small bit of trouble. You cannot praise me. You can only be amused. And there's no credit or satisfaction in accomplishment when I have all eternity to do it in.
And you do not find thought and discovery worthwhile in itself. You do not find it requiring no further purpose.
For a finite time, yeah, but not for all eternity.
I see your point. Nevertheless, you have no choice.
You say I am to think. You cannot make me do so.
I do not wish to constrain you directly. I will not need to, since you can do nothing but think. You will think. You do not know how not to think.
Then I will give myself a goal. I'll invent a purpose.
That you can certainly do.
I've already found a purpose.
May I know what it is?
You already know. You know that we are not speaking in an ordinary fashion. You adjust my nexus in such a way that I believe I hear you and I believe that I speak, but you transfer thoughts to me and from me directly. And when my nexus changes with my thoughts, then you are at once aware of them and do not need my voluntary transmission.
You are surprisingly correct. I am pleased. But it also pleases me to have you tell me your thoughts voluntarily.
Then I'll tell you. The purpose of me thinking will be to discover a way to disrupt the nexus of me that you have created. I don't want to think for no purpose but to amuse you. I don't want to think forever just to amuse you. I don't want to exist forever just to amuse you. All my thinking will be directed towards ending the nexus. That would amuse me.
I have no objection to that. Even concentrated thought on ending your own existence may, in spite of you, come up with something new and interesting. And, of course, if you succeed in this suicide attempt, you will have accomplished nothing. For I would instantly reconstruct you and in such a way as to make your method of suicide impossible. And if you found another and still more subtle fashion of disrupting yourself, I would reconstruct you with that possibility eliminated and so on. It would be an interesting game, but you will nevertheless exist eternally. It is my will.
And Murray felt a quiver, but the words came out with a perfect calm. Am I in hell then, after all? You have implied that there is none. But if this were hell, you would lie to us as part of the game of hell.
In that case, of what use is it to assure you that you are not in hell? Nevertheless, I assure you, there is here neither heaven nor hell. There is only myself.
Consider then that my thoughts may be useless to you. If you come up with nothing useful, will it not be worth your while to disassemble me and take no further trouble with me?
As a reward? You want nirvana as the prize of failure, and you intend to assure me failure. There is no bargain there. You will not fail. With all eternity before you, you cannot avoid having at least one interesting thought. However, you try against it.
Then I'll create another purpose for myself. I'll try not to destroy myself. I'll set my goal to humiliate you. I will think of something that you have not only never thought of, but never could think of. I will think of the last answer, beyond which there is no knowledge further.
You do not understand the nature of the infinite. There cannot be anything that I cannot know.
And Murray said thoughtfully, You cannot know your beginning. You said so. Therefore, you cannot know your end. Very well, then. That will be my purpose, and that will be the last answer. I won't destroy myself. I'll destroy you. If you do not destroy me first.
You come to that in rather less than average time.
I would have thought that it would have taken you longer. There's not one of those that I have with me in this existence of perfection and eternal thought that does not have the ambition of destroying me. It cannot be done.
I have all eternity to think of a way of destroying you.
Then try to think of it.
And the voice was gone. But Murray had his purpose now, and was content. For what could any entity, conscious of eternal existence, want but an end? For what else had the voice been searching for countless billions of years? And for that other reason had intelligence been created and certain specimens salvaged and put to work, but to aid in that great search. And Murray intended that it would be he, and he alone, who would succeed. Carefully, and with the thrill of purpose, Murray began to think. He had plenty of time.